Bases dropped, a new round of SDH AM. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do, and accessing us however you are doing so, large device or small. It's a Tuesday, and so that means it's Tuesday Thoughts. We kind of get caught up on everything. Sorry, I'm being very vain at the moment, so hang on. There, and tuck it behind. There we go. John, hear you there once again. In Tuesday, it is catching up on everything that we missed on the weekend, catching up on what happened last night with soccer over there. We do have some news that we've got to get into having to do with Major League Soccer. We'll get into that. And guests this morning, it is another go-round with Jason Brown for the NPSL-RL, and we get to catch up with him and get the update as to everything that has been going on with the NPSL Regional League. Jason Brown, the managing director, is going to join us in about 30 minutes or so, and we'll go over everything that's gone on since the announcement was made. We had Jason on the last time. We'll get our update and see what's going on with the NPSL-RL. Then 10:30, we catch up with Jason Stevens in our continuing series of the economics of soccer, and we get into multi-club ownership. This time, it's a bit of an interesting angle to it where you have the MCOs getting involved in women's soccer. And we know about Michelle Kang, and then there are other relationships that we kind of need to keep an eye on. And also where you have the equity funds and their futures with other equity funds. And so there's that we get into this morning when the segment with Jason comes up in the final half hour of the show, and we break everything down there. So it's the economics of soccer at 10:30. It is Jason Brown, the managing director of the NPSL Regional League, about 9:40. And the rest of the time, it's you and me. I know that we're used to seeing KCD at 9:15. KCD is traveling the planet like all week. And I think she has like 19 places to go. And so Casey will be back with us next week when she's not traveling 19 different places. So that's the rundown. Traditionally, we have KCD at 9:15, and then we have economics of soccer at 10:30. But KCD's on the road. Jason Brown's joining us at 9:40, and Jason Stevens. So I guess this is the Jason show. The only thing missing would be Longshore, and I'm hoping that Jason Longshore is sleeping at the moment. But after everything last night with soccer over there, I'm just glad that the road home for Jason Longshore was straight and was only about 2 miles worth of travel. And like I said, I'm hoping that he is still in bed. But no, it was great to see everybody last night at the brew house, and great to be a part of soccer over there as always. If you missed the announcement, morning Pars, morning David. If you missed the announcement, SDH has its own beer, and it's going to get rolled out on MLS Decision Day. And it's a great relationship with our friends at Nofo Brewing, and also with our friends at the brew house. And so be prepared at Jason Longshore, the third Jason not appearing on this program this morning. He was looking for just a nice lager for people to drink. And so he has partnered with Nofo, and they are sampling, and they're trying to get everything all squared away. But it looks like the Around the Corner lager will be released on Decision Day for Major League Soccer. So for those of you that might be at the brew house on Decision Day or working your way through, starting with Decision Day going forward, Around the Corner lager, with the relationship that SDH has with Nofo Brewing, that will be available at the brew house. And hopefully we can get it, evolved to where, it can get into bottles, and you can have bottles and take the bottles home. But I think it's going to be cans, and I think it's going to be on site. So Around the Corner lager, that is going to be released by Decision Day. That's the plan for Major League Soccer. And so the next thing that is coming out involving the SDH network, the Around the Corner lager. And I mean, it was really interesting that actually came to pass. And so Jason and Nofo and Brewhouse, they all came together, and it's like, okay, well, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? And they came up with it. So there you go. Around the Corner lager, very cool. And trust me, there will be some cans that might be somewhat punctured, but they will be around here, probably like over there off of camera or something, just so they can hang because there have been times in the past where I have had cans of things, and because the can of thing eventually would rot through the bottom of the can, it ends up spilling all over bookcases and shelves and everything, and you've got to clean up your mess. So maybe if I just find a way to puncture a hole in the bottom, the Around the Corner Lager 6-pack might be hanging out here with everything else that we have off camera with all the other cans. So that was a really cool piece of news that Jason was able to drop. Jason was able to drop yesterday on Soccer Over There. So that was really cool. That ended up being a part of the show yesterday. That we ended up letting everybody know what's going on with our new go round of everything with beer and SDH. So beer and SDH, very, very cool stuff that is there as well. So once again, thanks for dropping by this morning. I know that there was one thing that we didn't have the chance to get into yesterday on the show, and it might end up being opening kickoff. David asking if are we getting SDH growlers we can get filled at NoFo. That is a Jason Longshore question. I am not the beer aficionado. I have never been a beer person. When I did drink, I haven't had I haven't had alcohol in a very long time. But when I did, I was never a beer person. So for the growler question, David, please, I refer you to Jason Longshore for that. So sounds like a really good idea. So ask Jason. So that's basically, it's like ask your father, ask Jason about that. So so getting growlers, then you can get filled at NoFo. That's a good idea. Ask Jason. So that's the best advice I can give you early in the morning. I don't know a whole lot about beer. I will readily admit I don't know a whole lot about it. I never really drank it. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know that people like it. I never did. But at the same time, I understand its place. I understand its importance. But no, any growlers, that is ask David, ask Jason. Seriously, ask Jason about it. That might be the best way to get your answer. Like I said, sounds like a great idea. And, like I said, Jason would be, for all beer questions, go to Jason. I will announce things having to do with beer in the Around the Corner Lager here at SDH and NoFo and our friends at the brew house. But anything technical having to do with the beer itself, ask Jason. So Jason was looking for a lager that folks, that was easy for folks to consume and ingest and enjoy. And I think they've come up with their final formula. I just had this vision of like Jason and the NoFo folks and everybody at the brew house. They're all like in their white lab coats with the goggles and everything, and the really tall mortar and pestle, with the glass or the fiberglass, and they're sitting there and just kind of stirring the big. It's like the big beakers, and they're trying to sit there and go like this and figure out, okay, well, the constitution and the color and the texture, they look really good. So that basically, when things like that go into the workshop, that's the best thing that pops into my head. Literally, I just had this vision of Jason wearing either a Kangol hat or the SDH lid, and he's literally just wearing a lab coat. Morning, Abby. So we got a beer. The growlers, David, ask Jason. Any other beer-related questions, you can ask me. I might have an answer, but I will defer to Jason for most of the stuff. So we got a beer coming. That's going to be on decision day, and that is the start date. That the anticipated start date is decision day for Major League Soccer when the Around the Corner Lager gets rolled out. I don't know if we have it in kegs or what, initially, but if it gets, maybe it's a can, I figure you can roll it out too. So, yeah, so the beer is coming. And also what is coming is the new round of the Marshall Islands scarf. That I got the note on that yesterday. So it's going to be FedExed here to the office. When it is here, Doctro, we're getting there. We're going to get there. That was kind of opening kickoff. You're reading my notes. So, the Marshall Islands scarf is coming, round number 2. It's got the updated SDH logo. And so we got folks that are in Arkansas. We got folks in Europe. We have folks here in the U.S. that need to get their round number 2s. If you want to get a round number 2, let me know. because I'll have a big old box of them probably later today. And so folks need them, and that we got back orders, thankfully, from what happened in Arkansas. And so back orders are going to be taken care of. Anybody else that wants their round 2 scarf with the updated SDH logo to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, bring it. Just get in touch with me, and I will either meet you in person with it, or I can ship it to you, or if you're close enough to the office, I can drive it to your home. So just let me know. And once again, it's $25. And once again, those proceeds go to the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation to keep the lights on and make sure that they are continuing with their successes and all the things. So David's old Fourth Ward in town might be the only regular. Hey, I mean I got work in town, so if I need to drop something off, I can drop something off. So we got that. We got the round number 2 of the Marshall Islands scarf. Like I said, it's just the bookend that's different. It doesn't have it no longer has the interlocking DH. It's now the updated block logo like you see here. It's that SDH network logo. That's on the tails. And that's the difference. That is version 2.0. Support our friends from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And I know that we really have to pound them hard. Abby with making sure that they can get that, the stuff that they had released for the Arkansas Cup, that stuff is available for us, because the T-shirts rocket. Apparently, I'm getting my sweatshirt that I purchased on site today. And so we've got to continue to impress upon the folks in Arkansas, hey, the tie-dye was awesome, keep printing it. Hey, the hat was great, keep printing it. Hey, the sweatshirt was fantastic, keep printing it. We got to keep pounding our friends in Arkansas about this. Maybe it takes a phone call or a WhatsApp to our friends in the Marshall Islands and go, guys, we need to have them reissue stuff. So we'll get into that. So yeah, Abby, like I said, should be in town today. Big old box I'm anticipating from our friends at the Express that has been known to be federal. And I'll have some of those. But yeah, just let me know. And when it is officially in, I will show it to you here at the beginning of the program. And then we can figure out, Venmos and PayPals and all that kind of stuff. Or if you just want to see me in person, we'll do the exchange on Saturday and work it out that way. Okay. Opening kickoff. Oh, and you got a Marshall Islands pin for me. Sweet. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That was not opening kickoff. This is. And here's your QR code. For those of you who are hanging out with us, however you are doing so, large device or small, on the video side of things, you hit that QR code. It takes you to the website for Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Then when you buy out the store, which is what we request that you do, you can, in turn, get a discount. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it in the youth games, youth initiatives brought to us, and they have earmarked stuff that they think is cool. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, last night, while we were literally wrapping up SOT, Tom Bogert came out with the news that Driver is retiring. Tom Bogert announced last night, per sources, I feel like I should have some kind of reverb or something like that, per sources, that Driver is retiring. 4-time MLS Cup winner, 15, 18, 20, and 23 with Portland, Atlanta, and Columbus. And it's after the 25 season that Darlington Nagbe is retiring from Major League Soccer. And he has always been, I mean, when he was in his prime, and then even as he was navigating the tail end of his career, he was one of those metronomes that really made the team that he was with go. And along with that, he was one of those players that literally, if you needed someone really to calm things down. I mean, if there was chaos going on around you and you were trying to sit there and it's like, okay, we got to calm down here. We got to calm down. You gave the ball, you would find Darlington Nagbe. He would be in that pocket wherever it was. And he would always have the presence of mind to sit there and it's like, all right, pausa, calma, calma, calma. And he would be the guy when all the world is spinning around at 78 RPMs. And yes, I just, gave myself up for what age I was by using that reference. World is spinning out of control. You find Darlington Nagbe. Nagbe, he would be in possession of the ball, and everything comes back to square. Everything would just sit there, and it's like you could almost feel the collective blood pressure in a building kind of just sit there, and it's like, shh. It literally is just, everything just kind of calms down. Well, Pars, 78 RPMs, if you had a record player and the vinyl that we would get to put on record players, you had 4 speeds. Most of the time to play something in its real form, where it didn't sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks or anything like that. If you played a record at its normal pacing and the music came out, the driver reference. We'll get to that in a sec. Okay. 78 RPMs, everything is just like Alvin and the Chipmunks going really fast, 33 and a third is how things were normally. When you needed to get everything back to normal speed on the turntable at 33 and a third RPMs, that's where you find Darlington Nagbe. Okay. The driver reference. Dr. Don is looking for the driver reference. There was, in one of the times here in the South where we would have ice and snow and things like that, it was one of those. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Pars with the driver reference. Dr. Don's got it. But it was literally one of those ice storm. The world is falling down around its ankles kind of a thing. Everybody run to the store, get your milk and bread and eggs and gas and everything. And so one of the reporters for one of the local news affiliates here in town goes to, I think it was like a Quick Trip or something. And they interview Darlington Nagbe while he's getting gas at the pump. And literally, you could tell that the news reporter for that local affiliate had no clue who Darlington Nagbe was. So the how like when we have this stuff here underneath us, then the option for a second line when it comes to kind of identifying yourself. When they were running that package at that gas station of everybody rushing to get stuff, literally it was Darlington Nagbe, driver. That literally was what the lower third was, the identifier for Darlington Nagbe for his soundbite as he was getting gas, as the world was falling down around everyone here in the city of Atlanta for one of those alleged ice storms, snowstorm. No one can move for 5 days out of their house. Stack up your house. Make sure you've got all the water and the milk and the bread and the sandwiches and everything. Make sure your car is gassed up completely. News reporter goes to a gas station, interviews Darlington Nagbe, doesn't know it's Darlington Nagbe, and the lower third identifier is Darlington Nagbe, driver. So literally here in the southeastern footprint, if you are a fan of Atlanta United and go back a few years before, if you go back to the early days of the franchise, if you ever hear anybody say Darlington Nagbe, driver, not one of the most calming influences and one of the best midfielders ever in the history of Major League Soccer, but Darlington Nagbe, driver. That's where that came from. It came from an interview during Winter Storm Watch here in Atlanta. Darlington Nagbe just being Darlington Nagbe, hanging out at the gas station, putting gas in the car. Darlington Nagbe, driver. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hang on. Because people have been absolutely just blowing up with Darlington Nagbe references. Here, hang on just a second. Let me see if I can find out what it looks like here. Media. Okay, so let me see if I can find. Here we go. Okay, so here is. I'm going to share the screen with you real quick, and this is off of the media that is social. Oh, very good. Dr. Don's got the actual story. So let's go here. No, that's not what I want. So share screen. Okay, here we go. So here is that font that I was telling you about. Literally, that's the still that everybody is staring at. But Dr. Don found the story, so very, very cool that he actually did find the piece. But that is what we are referring to when it comes to Darlington Nagbe driver. Literally, he's at a QT. You can tell by the brick and the selling of the breakfast pizza. He's at a Quick Trip getting gas, where it's 45 degrees outside, and I'm guessing that the world is falling down upon us here in the SDH footprint. But yes, Darlington Nagbe driver. I don't think I got into trouble for showing that because it was a still off of the Twitters, but yes. So there you go. That's when we say Darlington Nagbe driver, that's what we're staring at. And so David, so Akron soccer back in 2010. Hang on, let me get the Akron Zips soccer 2010. Hang on. Jason Brown said to join us in 15 minutes. 2010 Akron Zips soccer team. Won the 2010 men's soccer championship, first ever title. 6-0 in conference, 22-1-2 overall. Zarek Valentine, Perry Kitchen, Darlington Nagbe, Kofi Sarkodie, and a lot of other dudes. I think this might be the only time that Anthony Ponikvarg might get mentioned on the shows when we were discussing what's going on with the 2010 Akron soccer program. But Zarek Valentine, Perry Kitchen, Darlington Nagbe, Kofi Sarkodie, that was the main guys that would go on to Major League Soccer. So they lose to South Florida in the preseason, and then they run an unbeaten string of 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 50, go 15 in a row unbeaten, 14-0-1 before losing to Cleveland State. Then they win the last 2 of the season. Then you end up with 2 in the MAC, 3 in the NCAA tournament, 2 in the College Cup. Darren Maddox also was a part of everything. So it was, yes, USM&T stalwart right back on that squad. I was reading the roster. So it was, so that's where Caleb Porter in his 4th season at Akron, 22-1-2. And you had, so Darren Maddox, Michael Nanshoff, Kofi Sarkodie, Darlington Nagbe, Perry Kitchen, Scott Caldwell. Hang on just a second. So Anthony Mpai-Pitakwong was a part of that roster as well. Chad Barson, Ben Spees, Eric Stevenson, Thomas Schmidt, and Macaulay Tulloch. And you DeAndre. So let me check DeAndre. So you had 3 transfers in. One of them was Perry Kitchen from IMG Academy. DeAndre Yedlin. Let me see the years that he was at Akron. Hang on just a second. So hang on. He did play at Akron, yes, but he was 2012. And that's a fantastic photograph of DeAndre Yedlin. Wow, that's a great photo. Okay, so here, I'm going to share one more thing before we bring in Jason Brown from the NPSL. Hang on just a second. So let me share the screen of this. This is tremendous. This is DeAndre Yedlin 2012 Akron. Look at that hairstyle from DeAndre Yedlin back in 2012. That is fantastic. DeAndre Yedlin in 2012 for Akron. But yeah, 2 years after the 2010 title, then DeAndre Yedlin was there. So that's your quick peek at everything. Yeah, Akron, I know. And so it was, nothing like the current Yedlin at all. But that was David, I don't know. I don't know how Akron became the center of the soccer universe in the early 2010s. I do not know how this happened. I do not know. But some institutions find ways to spend their budgets in certain ways, and you end up doing you end up looking at how you want to improve things. Because I think that might have been 2010 Akron football. That might have been when Terry Bowden was the head coach there. Hang on just a second. 2010 Akron football. Hang on. That might have been a Tiny Terry team. 2010 Akron Zips. Oh, it was Rob Ianello. Okay, so they were 1-11, and this might have been as they were leading toward bringing in Terry Bowden. But yeah, they were Rob Ianello in his first season went 1-11, 1-7 in the MAC. So they were investing in other ways. Ianello was there for 2010, 20. So DeAndre Yedlin and Terry Bowden were contemporaries. at Akron. Terry Bowden was doing American football. DeAndre Yedlin was doing soccer. So there you go. Jason Brown is here. And so as we're kind of going through things, that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Your QR code for those of you that wish to start your day and kick off your day with Kickoff Coffee is right there. Hit that QR code, and you go into Kickoff Coffee, buy out the store, use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. So you buy out the store, you think your wallet's empty. It's not. You get 15% back. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest at youth games, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. Since it is bottom of the hour, we'll go ahead and bring in Jason and find out what in the wide world of sports is going on with the NPSL-RL. Jason, good morning.
John, how you doing?
You tell me. You're the busy man right now. What's the latest with the NPSL-RL?
I'll tell you what, man. Since the last time we talked, we have had a lot of interest. Big thing going on this week is we're reaching out to all the regions that we see the biggest growth potential right at the moment. Get the calls on the way. I'll tell you what, we've had over 70 people already, 70 clubs that we're looking at already, kind of moving forward with the process. So hold on just a second here. Get my audio. All right, we're good now.
Yeah.
One of the things about it is since the interest form went out, we have had so many markets across the East, the South, the Plains, everywhere. So we're excited with what the movement's been happening with so far. I think from this point forward, it's we're getting closer to seeing what's going to form.
So 70 come knocking on your door. Literally, when the doors opened, was it a just rushing the gates and trying to sit there and go? It's like, all right, let's get this thing in so we don't miss our opportunity. What was the distribution of information like once the announcement was made about the NPSL-RL? Was there a charging of the gates here?
Yeah, I think it came from two fronts, right? So we're working with our membership already at the NPSL. We're looking at all of the regional interest outside of the current NPSL membership that's coming alongside us, and kind of dividing it into buckets. Like I said, this is a sustainable journey. It's not just let's run right out the gate. So we're not only looking at the spring, we're looking at summer, fall. Already talking about the next calendar cycle as well as we unify it across the platform. So I mean, it was a big rush, and now it's calculated conversations. So like I said, the first group we're going to work with this Friday, we just put it out on our social media, is the regions that have the highest concentration of spring and summer right at the moment. And then we're going to start taking those across the country. So just look at it kind of the East, Central, and West, and we're off and running. So it's an exciting time.
What about, and I know that you are just as concerned as everyone else, but when it comes to the vetting process in and of itself, because I know the last thing that the NPSL wants, especially with the NPSL-RL, if I could get my upper plate to work this morning, is just to do one and dones. You have somebody come in, sit there and go, yeah, this is cool. And then after one season, they realize they might have bitten off more that they can chew. And they're like, thanks for the opportunity. We're going to have to pass it along to somebody else. When it comes to the vetting process, what are you looking for in that vetting process, even if it is with a member of the NPSL that wants to be a part of the RL that you've already got on hand? When you're going through all of this stuff and you're looking at them with the magnifying glass, what are you looking for in these situations?
I think sustainability is the number one thing everybody wants to talk about. And the way this platform is coming together is that we're looking at like entry-level regional leagues that they're sending their top individuals that want to be part of something higher competitive. So what does that look like? Well, it's a budget. So we want to talk about those things and look at them. What do your facilities look like? Are they maintainable? What does your fan base and supporter base look like? Those are the things that enhance that environment. The accessible part of the RL is quite simply, there's no initiation fee. That's a big roadblock for a lot of people. And I think that's something that we're going to cultivate and incubate for those clubs that want to reach a national tier 1 platform like the NPSL through this process. So those entry-level leagues, they're looking to jump into something higher. We want to hold them to the same standards as the national stage, but in a sense that we are going to grow them in that manner. So they may not have everything, but they will have the key components that we're looking for to groom them for those national tiered playing opportunities.
For those that might have missed the initial information when we had you on the first time, this is once again the first and only men's league designated by the USASA as a Tier 1 national league. You announced the regional league platform launching nationwide, achieved with the partnership with the Great Lakes Alliance. And now this means that it's year-round. You have clubs that have the opportunity, and there are a lot of clubs with fantastic brands in the NP. It gives them the chance to have the brand active in the fall and the spring. And you're looking for clubs that have the opportunity to want to get into that Tier 1 activity for the NPSL. So it's an opportunity for the folks that are there. And I could sense, just by our coverage of the NPSL, that there are a lot of great markets that have a great opportunity here to go to that 12-month model. I'm intrigued. I'm probably intrigued just as much as you guys are, but I'm intrigued about the NPSL folks that are already established that want to take that next step. That, for me, is going to be something that I will be keenly locked in on in this process.
Absolutely. I think that's part of this whole project, right? The membership wants to be active year round. That wasn't existing in the current platform. So the RL is that laying the foundation for that opportunity to bring those clubs that are, in the Tier 1 level, as I call it, to a year-round calendar, and then start building that opportunity out as we go. So, I mean, that's the exciting part. And like I said, we talked about what does it look like down the road. I think that's the piece that's going to be continually evolving. And as we see that continue to evolve for the Tier 1 candidates and those that are already in the Tier 1 scenario, it's just going to continue to strengthen both platforms. That's what we're hoping to see.
You can give away as many secrets as you want here in the interview, but my biggest, I guess my next question is, when it comes to, and you can give specifics or you can be as generic as you like, but when it comes to the geography of what you have been able to get into the office so far for the RL, is there an even distribution of interest from the geography inside the NPSL and from clubs in the United States? Is there one part of the country that has really been, knocking on your door and sitting there and banging your phone? What's the breakdown of the interest so far in the RL that you can divulge?
Right now we have a national footprint we're looking at with teams that are interested. In terms of saturation, I would go ahead and share like your major markets have a lot of those. So, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast, Central Midwest, high interest in terms of getting something off the ground in the spring. Some are looking to be even more. So, for example, we're heavily concentrated right now, I'd say, east of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Looking really good into there. And then, down in the southern tier, south central area, southeast, and working our way across. Like I said, it's not a sprint. We want to make sure that we're having conversations with those that are interested and making sure that it's an opportunity that they see this as a collaboration with their leagues as well, and working to find an opportunity for their members to move up into a higher level platform, so on and so forth. So really impressed with where it's at so far in terms of what's coming into shape. So
Jason Brown, Managing Director of the NPSL-RL, hanging out with us here as they get ready for the launch in the spring. And I know a lot of folks are sitting there going, oh, yeah, the spring. Yeah, spring's over there. Yeah, it'll be, it's coming. But you're like, no, you don't understand. It's the spring. It's maybe 6 months from now, maybe less, when you're on the field. You've got to have all of this build up and be ready to hit the ground running for the spring. When you look at those that are looking to participate, how much of that is a part of this reminder? It's like, okay, cool, you want to be a part of this, but you got to get to boogieing now so you can be ready come springtime to have the matches on the field, to be ready for the NPSL-RL.
Right. So for us, the cutoff for spring is November 15th. So, I mean, we're rocking and rolling really quick. In terms of these informational sessions, the goal is to walk out with a conference. We want to see things coming together pretty quickly over the next, I would say, 7 to 10 days, and getting those out there. And, we all want to see announcements and all of those fun things that go with it. And I mean,
we do, Jason. Yeah, we do.
Again, that's all the fun stuff that we're building up towards. And, we, like I said, it's looking at the viability and sustainability of those markets too, of making sure that we're putting together something that makes sense for everybody to get out the gate really quick. So January 1st is coming quick. We got a November 15th cutoff. And we also realized that some markets, they may want to kick off earlier. So if we can get the ball rolling, no pun intended, quicker, we may see some things happening at a lot faster pace. So it's kind of spring, and we're ready to look at summer now too. So it's really fun.
Do you have a target number in mind for franchises for the RL, or is it like, okay, give me 8 in this region and I'm good. Give me 8 in this region, I'm good. Give me X in the overall across the US and we're good. Do you have target numbers that you have in your mind to have the RL launch the way that you're looking?
Yeah, I think, right now we're looking at an 8-game schedule
Okay.
when we kick off at the start of the year. So, I mean, something that would balance a nice conference schedule with an 8-match, requirement. I think that's what we're looking at. Are we flexible? Yes. I would say once we get to that point of saturation, then we're going to start talking about what does regional growth look like and things like that. But as long as we can get something that's manageable for an 8-game schedule, we'll be putting it out the gate.
So then if you're looking at 9-game schedule, you're looking at 8-game schedule. So you're looking 9 teams. So you might be, 18, 27, some kind of a multiple in there. Are you looking to have in a perfect, and this is, like I said, this is perfect world stuff. So folks can have an idea as to what they're getting into. Perfect world. If you have the 9-team region, if you have more than one of those, are
Right.
you looking for schedule crossover? Do you want to be self-contained so they can have their 8-game schedule in their region, and then you get into outside the region stuff for postseason activity? How are you looking? Are you looking at anything in particular when it comes to schedule makeup? Do you want to keep it self-contained for financial reasons? What are you looking at for scheduling here?
So the big thing for the regional league is really accessibility. So accessibility for me is also value-driven efforts and financial, security. So we want to make sure that we're keeping those regions in-house. We're not going to do a lot of crossover play, probably for a little while. Spring specifically, no championships, just play. We're getting the games out there. We're getting your season going. The summer, we'll look at a championship component within those regional conferences.
Mhm.
But that's the tier 1 opportunity that we see. That's where we see those guys playing for the major conference championships and the national championship. And that's the growth point. We want to make sure that we're incubating teams that can handle a regional footprint and prepare them for that national opportunity down the road. So, and we're going to let our membership guide that a
Yeah.
little bit. That's what makes it different. We're going to have conversations. Like I said, the informational sessions on Friday, we're going to open the gate up and we're going to be open to questions like that of what do they want to do and make it work within reason. So
When somebody knocks on your door, whether it's email, carrier pigeon, FedEx package, phone call, whatever, what's the most common question that you're getting as folks want to kick the tires and get more information? When you have your initial phone call before the information session coming up on Friday, what are the most common questions that you're getting from folks that are interested about joining the RL?
number one thing is, can we kick off in the spring? Absolutely. So, that's always the great question to be having right off the bat. The next question comes into, what's the initiation fee? How it looks with a lot of other opportunities. There's no initiation fee.
Right.
We want to get you in. We want to get you on the field and get you playing. And then some of it's just the logistics. What does the travel look like? What does the region look like? And, the best way to say is the region's going to be shaped as we bring in more people in the area. We're wanting to keep that travel between 4 and 6 hours. So it's making things manageable for these teams on that kind of footprint instead of just saying, oh, this is what it is. This is what you're going to do. We want to make this a collaborative effort, in terms of preparing them for this opportunity.
And the right now, once again, no initiation fee, deadline November 15th. League dues only, including NPSL affiliation and the USASA insurance coverage. Spring season finishes by April 26th. Is that to reorient those folks in that RL into the normal NPSL schedule? Is that so they can kind of catch a breath? And if they're going to be in the normal NPSL schedule that we associate, is that jumping off point so they can get back into an NPSL schedule? Is that why April 26th was that marker?
Correct. So we want to make sure that there's a little bit of a breakdown. So there's a little bit of rest in between that next segment. The player pools change a little bit, as we go into summer. So we want to allow for a little bit of variances to happen in that manner. And again, this is also to designate a time period for our active NPSL members to have development periods. So it's an evaluation period. It's a development cycle. It allows them to bring their other guys in and then get ready for a summer component in which the hope is to see NPSL 2 teams. So you're going to see the reserve teams come in and have another development cycle as well. So it's really keeping all of our membership active at different levels throughout the different times of the year.
Jason Brown, Managing Director of the NPSL Regional League, hanging out with us for another couple of minutes as we continue to get intel as they get ready for their big organizational meeting on Friday, as they continue their push to get things moving in March for 26 for the beginning of the spring league here on the morning show. I mentioned the most common question that you get when somebody knocks on your door and has knocked on your door so far. Is it mainly fully confident? Is it confident with a little bit of wariness and wondering, okay, I got a lot of questions, and you get to sit there and quell nerves a little bit? So when folks call, is it 100%, confident we're ready to go? Is it like 70-30 where, yeah, we're confident, but we got questions to kind of tie things up? Is it 50-50? Do you have to sway opinions? What do you think when it comes to locking down, yeah, we're interested versus, yeah, we're interested, but we got questions? Where on the scale, where is the contact and the feedback that you're getting?
I mean, it's overall confident.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that's what the NPSL brings to the equation, right? We know this is a long-standing league. We wouldn't be jumping into a regional level component without saying, hey, this is going to have a set of standards that make sense, a set of standards that are upheld. And that's the integrity of the NPSL brand. The NPSL-RL is walking alongside that. So when teams knock, they know the expectation of what they're going to be receiving. And I think it's those that are outside the NPSL market that we're just kind of having those conversations of like, hey, this is the standard.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to get. And so it's not really wariness. It's more of an education phone call, right? And we're moving those things forward. And I think it's also different. We aren't doing an initiation fee. We are operating on a flexible schedule. We are looking at things from a different lens of growth rather than this team is ready to be at a national tier opportunity. So I don't really think it's wariness when we talk with teams and they have questions. We're talking with teams that are trying to get educated. Like, is this the right step for us? Mm-hmm. Or do we need to stay in that entry-level regional league environment? So I think it's probably, I'd say 70-30, 80-20. I don't, it's one of those, it's one of those things. I don't have the metric for it at this time. It's making sure people feel confident when they pick up the phone. They already know that this is an opportunity that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's at that point, educating them on, do we have the ability to meet this standard?
Yeah, and the other element I think of this is that in the and I'll use air quotes, and it's probably $1 in the jar when I do it. The normal NPSL schedule, as we know it, where you have concerns, you have your roster at the beginning, and then the deeper you get into your playoff run in the quote normal schedule, rosters change out because kids have to go back to school and play back in college soccer and all these kinds of things. I would posit that marker that you have for the RL being late March for the championships once again offers these clubs that opportunity to reset their rosters as they go. If they're, if you end up with those roadblocks of, okay, I've got to get folks back for college, I'm bringing folks in from college, that natural break gets to help out when it comes to roster assembly and roster continuity if you're going from spring to summer, from RL to normal and that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Right. And again, this is a player first minded opportunity. So like, what does this look like to make sure that the player pools are fresh, that the teams are able to bring in those that they have longstanding relationships with? And again, it keeps a continuous development cycle. So it's going to allow them to move at their own pace. When they move into the summer series, like most national league opportunities, tier 1 nature, stuff like that, they have cutoff deadlines of bringing new players in. So one of the things that we want to see is that, these reserve teams become incubators to enhance their roster. So that way they're not just, flying blind, say they got to fill a spot. They have a development pool already at the palm of their hands to kind of work with, and then continue that cycle through the rest of the summer for both. And then for those that are Open Cup qualifying, which is what we want to see more of, we've now created a opportunity for them to continue developing and being friendly with the U.S. Open Cup schedule as they move through that journey too. So, we're already looking at the 2027 opportunities out of this platform too.
Where's the dry erase board that has everything that you've got to get squared away before 26 in the spring and March? Is it off camera? Is it a big dry erase board? Is it a Google Doc? The to-do list? Where is that to-do list of yours right now?
I'll tell you what, we have a very strong team. So the to-do list sends on a big old Google Doc. We're making comments left and right. So, I mean, it never rests. I'll tell you that. It's always going, it's moving. I think it gets maybe a little less sleep than I do, but we're always active on that aspect. So, I mean, it's a lot of things, but it's a lot of things that just are repeatable. So it's bring it in and move it down the process and keep it going. And that's what allows us to do some of these things much quicker and much more efficient. So,
and the next thing that crossed off the list is the Friday meeting. So what? Oh, so one more time, what's happening on Friday as a part of the build here for the RL?
So Friday, it's very straightforward. I'm going to be meeting with 9 different regions that have had selective interest on moving forward with either spring and summer or just spring solely. And we're going to start having conversations of like, hey, this is what your region would look like. Let's get the ball rolling, answer some questions, and hopefully out of that, we're going to be moving towards putting the ball in the field pretty quickly. 9 o'clock, we're going to be meeting. We have 9, 10, and 11 o'clock with our informational sessions. There'll be about 40, 45 minutes, and then we're ready to go.
Yeah, I imagine that the Zoom is going to be fairly crowded in each one of those 3 hours. It's going to be a lot of folks and a bunch of monitors. And if you ever want to come and break any news about franchises or anything that are going to be a part of what's going on, you know me, I'm not going to turn you down. You want to announce some clubs and you want to announce some conferences, you know me. Like I said, that's what we're here for, man.
I'm looking forward to being back on so we can do that. I think we're getting pretty close to it, and I'm looking forward to sharing that.
Always. It's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for the update. I know it's going to be a big day for you on Friday, and get your rest and make sure that everybody there at the NPSL-RL is ready to go. And once again, thanks for coming on and giving everybody the update. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Absolutely, John. You have a good rest of your day.
There we go. Jason Brown, Managing Director of the NPSL Regional League, with the update there. So Friday, if any of you have the Zoom info, you might be getting it in an email from Jason next couple of days. So next stages for the NPSL-RL information sessions on Friday. I don't know who's in the 9, the 10, or the 11. Check your emails, and you get to be a part of that process as they continue to grow and get ready for the spring of 26, which is, as we said in the interview, it's 6 months away, but it's really not. So you're looking to end your schedule in the NPSL-RL by April 26, which means you're playing in March, which means that you've got to have your infrastructure in place, which means that you've got to do it balancing the holiday season. You've got to be ready, and your deadline to go into the spring season is 12 days before Thanksgiving. And you know how things are with Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. So the sooner you get in the door, the less you probably have to worry about wondering how are we going to navigate things through the holiday season, because then you get through the holiday season, you're January 1st. January 2nd, and you're going to be playing in March. So basically, you get things squared away now. You try and navigate the tail end of November and December with all of your logistics. You get to the first of the year, and then you're probably 6 weeks away from playing, or 8 weeks away from playing. And you're 6 weeks away from training camp at that point. So this is the challenge here for these teams that are interested in joining the NPSL Regional League. Is you got to get it all squared away now before these information sessions on Friday, so you can get moving, so you can navigate the holidays, so you can be ready to go come training camp in late February, early March. So we'll continue to keep an eye on what's going on with the NPSL-RL, and can't thank Jason enough for his openness when it comes to the build of a league like the NPSL-RL is trying to do. And so once again, they're looking to have a bunch of folks, a bunch of franchises across the country, and have that as a part of the spring component and then the summer component, and then turn it into a year-round idea with the NPSL-RL. And so you're looking for, as Jason was quoted at the time that the announcement came out, partnering with the Great Lakes. You get the Great Lakes and you get Ohio Valley paired. Ohio Valley Premier and the Great Lakes. That was kind of the impetus for this. And that's your opening there. So I'm anticipating, as Jason said, a lot of folks in that Ohio Valley area and then in the Great Lakes. So probably Rust Belt, you're going to have a lot of folks who are interested or engaged in that idea. And then that would be probably your hub, and then everything builds out from there. But I'm intrigued for the names that we traditionally cover in the NPSL. Who wants to be a part of the RL, and who wants to be a part of that next stage? Who wants to be a part of the year-round branding when it comes to the NPSL? That to me is going to be the interesting part in this. So when Jason comes back and announces, okay, who's in, you can sit there and go, okay, I understand. You sit there and you look at that name. I get it. Yeah, and so they're ready. That to me is the intrigue here, and that was why I wanted to ask about specifically the vetting process, because when you are starting something like this that is a 12-month venture or can be a 12-month venture for a franchise, you want to jump off and start things as well as possible. You don't want a one and done. One and dones do you no good when it comes to growing the league and when it comes to growing the idea. And so that's why I asked about the vetting process. It's like, okay, what's the process? Who's doing what? What's it doing? Where's it going? All those kinds of things. So for me, the vetting process and roster assembly and the shakeups that you'll have going from the spring league into the normal league that we're used to seeing in the late spring, early summer, those roster shakeups for me are another part of this. But as Jason said, it also gives, from that 12-month footprint, it gives you the chance to develop your own. So you could see a lot of insert team here twos and academies and what have you working their way forward to help out that 12-month venture in the regional league. So those to me are the two big talking points: the vetting process, and then and he got into the idea of having the conferences themselves being self-contained because they just want to get out there, they want to have that schedule, they want to get everything rolling, and the roster construction, especially if you are going from spring season to summer season and trying to go 12 months, and what allowances will be made, if any, when it comes to making sure that you have these athletes that don't violate NCAA rules when it comes to engagement and staying a part of active rosters and things like that. So there are some things to keep an eye on going forward. But once again, the marker is Friday, where Jason Brown has his meetings, the Zoom calls at 9, 10, and 11 Eastern with folks who are interested, and we get to see who's interested and who might be diving into the RL and the spring events come 2026. So as always, it's great to catch up with what's going on with the NPSL and the NPSL-RL as they are continuing to add elements to their league and to their year-long calendar. So once again, I can't thank Jason Brown enough for dropping by and letting us know what's going on with all the things going on in the NP. Morning, Knicks. Yes. And Knicks noticed. Yeah, and Knicks noticed that I broke out, and this was after what happened yesterday with the announcement for the tour. I was cursing the ground, and then I had to figure out, okay, can I find one of my tour T-shirts and wear it on the show this morning? Because if I couldn't find one of my tour T-shirts in short notice, I was going to grab my Geddy Lee autobiography and have it here in the office. But yes, this is the R40, and this is the last show from the forum, and this is going to be where their first two shows are for the tour that's coming up in 2026. I noticed also that selfishly, they have a show in Fort Worth, Texas on my birthday. 2, I will not be going to that show because we are kind of in the middle of our World Cup coverage at that point. So they're touring, and a lot of the shows are during the World Cup. You're not helping me out, man. So because of the World Cup, I am in the queue for shows later in the run because you can sign up for the pre-sale and all that kind of stuff. And so, yes, I signed up for the pre-sale. I don't really want to know what the prices are. I am very afraid of those. But what you're seeing with the tour dates is drift in for a couple of dates, then they go home, then come back in a couple of weeks, then they go home, another couple of shows, and they go home. And so they're doing like late week shows if they're doing 2 in a market, and then they're going home and then flying out again in a couple of weeks, and they're doing that. So it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth instead of just, 90 days of running like hell. So, yes, I did sign up for the pre-sale. It's for the dates after the World Cup. I don't want to know what the prices are. And I am intrigued with the drummer that they are bringing in. She was a part of Jeff Beck's band a couple of years ago. And from all accounts, she is one of the most technical drummers out there. And this is going to be a high bar because you have, it's Neil Peart. It's going to feel a little weird. And to be perfectly honest, I still have problems, if you want to call it that. I'm still a little squeamish listening to the music of the band with Neil having passed. And I'm the same way with Tom Petty. I'm the same way with Jimmy Buffett. But it's odd hearing the music of a band that you like when not all of the members are there. So with the announcement yesterday, this morning, and everybody going berserk on social media, as you well should, there were a couple. It's like I've started listening again, and I'm remembering why I enjoyed them as much as I did when I was growing up. And I was always under the auspice of good album, bad album, good album, bad album after Time Stands Still and Test for Echo. And it's like, okay, they do one, Snakes and Arrows, and then back and forth. For me, it started with Signals, and then I worked forward, and then I worked backward. Saw them on the Roll the Bones tour, saw them on Counterparts. Both of them, well, one was at the Omni, and the other was at, was it Phillips, or were they both at the Omni? But Counterparts and Counterparts and Roll the Bones, saw them in Atlanta, and also saw them at the amphitheater north of town for whatever sponsor is linked to there. So got lawn seats for one of those shows. I think for Snakes and Arrows, I think it was a lawn show, and we went there, and I got tickets to Irvine Meadows in 2015, the last amphitheater shows they did before they went to the Forum to finish up R40. So I still have those tickets someplace, but obviously I couldn't fly out to California to go to Irvine Meadows and go see them, but I still have the tickets here in-house. And so story time with John, and I'm right there with you, Nick. I wish they were doing more shows. Story time with John real quick. It was, during the Roll the Bones tour. Let me, if I could spell story time with John, then we'd be all right, and I could lower third font. At the time of the Roll the Bones tour, and this might even be opening kickoff round hour number 2. I love the album. I loved every cut on it. I understood their humor from the absolute beginning. That was a no-brainer. The girl I was dating at the time Roll the Bones came out, she knew I was a big Rush fan, and she knew that we were going to the Omni to go see the show. And we got, we get pretty decent seats. It was kind of like catty corner to the basketball floor, but you were on the opposite side, so you could see the whole stage and everything. She didn't quite understand Roll the Bones as a song. She was wondering what all of the machinations were involving it, and how Alex was singing backup, and all of the elements that were attached to it when they were rapping. And I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, this is their way of, I said that this was their way of kind of nodding to that as a genre. And then when she understood that, she's like, oh, I get it now. I love the song. And so it was an acquired taste going in, but then when she finally figured out, and when I kind of told her, it's like, look, this is them kind of doing a nod to it. She's like, oh, I get it now. And so, having to convince the girlfriend at the time, it's like, no, this is how they work. This is how their brains operate. They might be a half bubble off plum sometimes, but this is how their brain works. And so when she got that, she was like, oh, I get it now. And so I converted her from that moment. So it took a little bit of understanding of how they do things musically, and then she fell in love with them too. And I don't know, like I said, I haven't spoken to her for probably maybe 35 years, but still, I'm hoping the appreciation is still there. But yeah, so she didn't quite understand the whole roll the bones lyrical idea, and then when I finally explained it to her, she finally got it. But anyway, yeah, Rush on tour, and I'm in the queue for tickets. Yeah. I'm just shuddering what that cost is going to be like, and if I can afford it. Because, like I said, it's after the World Cup, so it's either Toronto, Madison Square Garden, or Cleveland, and you can set up notifications, and I've done that already. So, yeah, so we're waiting for that and for the 50-something tour. I guess that was opening kickoff hour 2. Jason Stevens set to join us with his return on discussing the economics of soccer coming up at the bottom of the hour. And with this time around, as we continue to look at multi-club ownership models, this time around it's with the women's game and with women inside the women's game and private equity funds investing in the women's game and private equity funds investing in private equity funds and investing with private equity funds in the women's game, and what we need to keep an eye on when it comes to all of this and looking at assets and trying to figure out, okay, is this just distressed or is it a growth asset, and why they're doing it. So once again, stuff to keep an eye on when it comes to the economics of soccer with our friend Jason Stevens, the football consultant Jason Stevens, and we catch up with that conversation coming up at the bottom of the hour. Between now and then, we recap what's going on in Major League Soccer from the weekend outside of the late game with Atlanta and all of the other stuff, and we let you know who is out the door for the international call-ups. And Nix, I'm right there with you. Between Rush and World Cup ticket prices, I'm never financially going to recover. I'm right there with you. So we'll keep an eye on those who are out the door for their national teams and see what it's going to look like, because remember, we do have action this weekend when it comes to Major League Soccer, because you still have folks that are having to make up match days, and you've got to get everything all squared away in all of this and figure out, okay, how are we going to navigate the international window when you've got teams that are having to play in the international window, and going from that for Atlanta United specifically, what's it going to look like for Atlanta United? We'll get into that as we go this week. Dr. D, I wish I could buy us all tickets and turn it into an SDH gathering field trip kind of a thing. But like I said, it would have to be those dates, because the dates at Dickies, the early idea would have been for me to go to Fort Worth for my birthday. That would have been done. But I can't, because we're doing the World Cup coverage. And by the way, that's going to be fairly extensive here at SDH. Look for Atlanta Soccer Tonight every day. Either, on 92.9 The Game, you're going to have all the stuff with us on the morning show. The morning show is going to be devoted to it, and you're probably going to have afternoon updates and things like that and coverage and all over the place. But anticipate AST to be either in its 1 hour form or more than that at 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. So our SDH's World Cup coverage is going to blow up. We're going to be on every night. It's going to be a long trek. We're planning road trips on the whole thing. So we might be at the Brew House. We might be at the Brew House 1. We might be at the Soto Brew House, or Brew House Soto, the one in South Downtown. We'll be all over the place. And we're doing shows, and we're all over it. So we're looking forward to all of our in-depth coverage for the World Cup coming up in a bit. But for Atlanta United specifically, and you've got to look at I'm trying to see if there is the list that the Major League Soccer puts out, International Window MLS. Let me see if they posted it that way. Okay, every MLS call-up. This is what we're looking for. So for Atlanta United, you're without 7. 8 if you include Cooper Sanchez. Miggy, Luke Brennan, Ronald Hernandez, Saba, and Mihai, and the Albanian national team, they've got a rather heated match coming up with Serbia that is going to be a part of this international window. Miranchuk and Bart Slish. You will not have them for the trip to Fort Lauderdale. So you might have 12 or 13 first-team players heading down to Fort Lauderdale to the erector set to take on Messi and friends. And Messi and friends are missing Rodrigo de Paul, Ian Frey, Messi, Santi Morales with the U19s, Fafa Pico, Talasco Segovia, and Matteo Silvetti. Yeah, so 13 seems about right. I don't know what the call-up situation is. I don't know who has them left for Atlanta United, but it will be intriguing to say the very least. LAFC has 3 matches in the next week and a half, including Wednesday. So they go Wednesday, Saturday week. No Bouanga, as he has AFCON with Gabon. No Mathieu Choinière. No Yunmin Son, and no Nathan Ordaz. So coming up this weekend, Messi and friends are missing 7. Atlanta United's missing 7. Technically 8 if you include Cooper Sanchez. What's it going to look like? We'll walk through it later in the week and see if any other names are added. But at the back, you're probably looking at keeping an eye on Brooks Lennon's health. And this is just the early returns. Keeping an eye on Brooks Lennon's health at right back. Your center backs are probably Barakal and Stian Gregerson. And your work at the left is Pedro Amador. Steven Alzate will be one of the 2 in front of the 4. Then you're trying to figure out, okay, what's that second midfielder going to be? Then your attack, you'll have Jamal, and then you got to figure it out. That's where you are right now. That with just the starting ideas that you've got. So you got to keep an eye on who's nicked up. You got to keep an eye on Brooks Lennon at right back. With the 2 season over, you got to figure out, okay, who's got call-ups left. You got to figure out the health of Nick Sesek. And you're probably going to have Leo Afonso as a part of the mix. The irony attached there with a return to Fort Lauderdale. Oh, let's see. Maybe Salma Safaro on a short-term call-up. Like I said, I don't know what the short-term call-up situation is, and I don't know who has them left. Maybe Javi Armas goes up. Maybe Salma Safaro goes up. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what it looked like for the 2s starting on the weekend. So, all right. So now I'm intrigued. All right, we've gone down this rabbit hole. I was going to talk about what else was going on in Major League Soccer on the weekend. Hissing cockroaches, Madagascar cockroaches. Yeah, I know. Really, you get those kinds of dreams in your head. So the lineup for the 2s, just to give you an idea. We say Santi Pita, Moises Tablante, Didi Cibrian, Javi Armas, Ryan Carmichael, Ronan Wynn, Toto Majub, Salma Safaro, John O'Ransom. And your bench had Aiden Torres, Rodrigo Neri, Arif Kovac, Ignacio Suarez-Corey, and Yellen Ettinger. I could probably see Salma Safaro going up, maybe Ronan Wynn. And this is, like I said, I have no knowledge of international call-ups at the moment, and emergency call-ups. Ryan Carmichael, Javi Armas, Moises Tablante, and maybe Santi Pita. I could see those being in consideration for call-ups, maybe Aiden Torres, and seeing what it looks like. This is going to be an adventure, and it's going to be a challenge for Ronnie Dial and the staff going to Fort Lauderdale to take on Messi and friends. But that's what you got this week if you're Atlanta United too. We'll try and get some Oppo research, knowing the context of what's going on. We'll see if we can grab somebody from South Florida and take a peek at what's going on. But, yeah, Atlanta United without 8, if you include Cooper Sanchez, and Messi and friends without 7, including DePaul and Messi and Pico and Segovia. Ian Frey, Santi Morales, Matteo Silvetti, the other 3. So if you've got a match this weekend, if your favorite Major League Soccer team has a match this weekend, it will be an adventure piecing folks together for it. I mean, LAFC, once again, they're without 4, and 2 of them are Sonny and Denny Bouanga. Then they got Toronto FC as their first opponent, and Toronto FC is without 3, Etienne Larea and Jonathan Osorio, and Richie Larea just fell down again. So Toronto will probably be in decent form, but LAFC will have most of their back line back. And like I said, they're going midweek, weekend. They have 3 matches in this window to make up things. So that will be that's what we're staring at going forward with Major League Soccer on the week / the weekend. Like I said, and we'll get you squared away with everything. Hopefully get a visit from our friends at Major League Soccer Friday morning at 10 o'clock and see who's calling games. And maybe we get to catch up with somebody new. But here's the rundown of what happened. Charlotte over DC 1-0, and they only scored 1. DC United had 2 red cards. One of them, Luis Barraza, their starting keeper. So he will not be available for the matchup against Atlanta United week after this. So Jordan Farr might be in net for DC United, and they also had a red card for Herrera, and so you will not have Aaron Herrera, and you will not have Luis Barraza. Barraza, by the way, out of contract, and so his career in DC might be done. But you will have Christian Benteke coming up in a week and a half. You'll have Gabe Pirani and Peltola and Hopkins and most of that lineup, including Connor Antley, who'll probably have some fans there coming up from Statesboro. But only 1 on the board for Charlotte. Missed opportunities for them in that matchup against DC, but you still ended up with all full points, and you got the Duke if you were Charlotte and you needed to keep the beat. Montreal and Nashville, this was obviously one of the big surprises of the weekend. Montreal, traditionally tough at home, but they held Nashville to 1 and got 1 point out of the deal. Dallas, 2-1 over LAG. Messi and friends put 4 on New England, pretty much just solidifying New England's season. Jordi Alba, a brace. Tadeo Allende, a brace. Dov Turgeman got the goal for New England in the 59th minute. Allende scored in the 32nd. Alba scored. It was 2-0 at the break. Turgeman scored to make it 2-1. Allende scored. Alba scored 4-1, and that was your final. We'll go over the standings at the end of this. NYC over Red Bulls in Hudson River, 3-2. That one was in New Jersey. NYC desperately needed those points to keep the beat with what's going on in the Eastern Conference. Chicago shut out Columbus 2-0. Columbus with a lot of injuries, and especially Wassam Abu Ali, their new striker, not having him available has been an adventure for the crew for about the last month. Chicago got the Duke, and that got them into the playoffs. Then you end up with Nashville. What am I? What? You're looking at the wrong thing. Never mind. Hang on. Dallas 2-1 over Galaxy. Messi and friends 4-1 over New England. Cincinnati 1-0 over Red Bulls. Now it's better. Late goal by Cincinnati. Orlando and Columbus 1-1 draw. Columbus still with injuries, still hasn't had a whole lot of offense, but they got a point in Orlando, which is kind of what we figured was going to happen. Philadelphia won Supporters Shield. They got the pie plate. They had the big celebration. They sprayed everybody with all the liquid they could. And Rich joined us yesterday to remind us about Philadelphia winning the pie plate and the Supporters Shield here in 25. All caps, probably with one of the bigger surprises of the weekend. Austin coming off of the Open Cup in midweek. Marcel Hartel scores twice, wrapping around a goal from Svatok, 2-1 at the break, and then Bashir scored at 90+3. Marcel Hartel Holiday Inn, to borrow a phrase from our friends at MLS 360. Then it was, I've got to remember to just, this clicks back twice and annoys me. Chicago 2-2 over Toronto, 2-2 with Toronto. San Diego put 4 on Houston. That pretty much solidified Houston's fate. Minnesota 3-0 over Kansas City. RSL 1-0 over Colorado. Seattle 1-0 over Portland. Sunday night, Vancouver put 4 on San Jose, winning that one 4-1. Illumi, Thomas Mueller, and Berhalter with a second-half brace, wrapping around a goal from LaRue in the 89th minute. But Vancouver got the 4 goals on the board, and they got the win by the score of 4-1. So now standings. Eastern Conference, Philadelphia clinched. 33 matches, 4 points ahead of Cincinnati. So Philadelphia got the pie plate. Everybody celebrated. Rich reminded us of their celebration yesterday. Cincinnati's at 62 points. Messi and friends are in. They're at 59, but they also have a match in hand. So the match in hand with Atlanta this weekend will go a long way in figuring out who's chasing. Is Charlotte and NYC going to be chasing? Charlotte has 18 wins. Miami has 17 wins, match in hand. Miami's at 59 points. So if Messi and friends get a result this weekend, are they closer to Cincinnati or are they closer to Charlotte? Charlotte, 56 points, 18 wins. NYC, 56 points, 17 wins. So the tiebreaker between those two would go to Charlotte. Nashville at 54. Orlando match in hand at 53. So Orlando could make a case for a home date and a home seed being in the top 4 if they clean out. 14 wins, by the way. Chicago at 52. Columbus at 51. That's your 9. That's in. We just don't know the where for everybody except for Philly. And obviously, we'll navigate that after this weekend. Out, Red Bulls at 43, New England 35, TFC at 29, Montreal at 28, Atlanta 27, and DC United 25. Western Conference is chaos. San Diego, 60 points, 1 match to go. Vancouver match in hand, 60 points. Minnesota's at 58. LAFC, 2 matches in hand. Like I said, that's why they're playing midweek weekend and then decision day. 56 points. So they get a result against TFC, even though they don't have 2 of their big guns. Then the streak will end at 18 if LAFC scores. 18 of the last 18 goal interactions have either had Denny Bouanga or Youngmin Son attached. That streak will come to an end if they score against Toronto and try to chase full points in the midweek. 56 points, match in hand, they're in 4th. Long separated. Seattle, match in hand, 49 points. Austin, match in hand, 44 points. Portland, 33 matches played, 11, 11, 11, 44 points. The bastions of consistency. Then Dallas at 41, RSL at 40, Colorado at 40. They're below the 9 right now. They have 1 less win, and they played 33 matches. RSL match in hand at 40 points. Colorado is 10th. San Jose is still active in 11th at 38 and 10 wins. Everybody else is gone. Dynamo at 36, All Caps at 31, Sporting at 27, LAG at 24, 0-10 and 7 on the road this year. And they've scored 42 goals in 32 games. They've given up 64. Sporting have given up 70 goals this year, by the way. And the only ones close to them are DC United at 65, who've only scored 29 goals in 33 matches. San Jose, who've given up 62, and LAG, who've given up 64. So that's the layout heading into the midweek with everything. And like I said, we'll keep an eye on the international call-ups. But for the matchup with Messi and friends in Atlanta United, it's devastating for both. I will be intrigued to see who comes up for Messi and friends too. I will be interested to see who comes up from Atlanta United too, who still has call-ups left. But the names that are available from the twos, like I said, I don't know short-term call-up numbers, but it would be intriguing to see that some of those folks in that group come up and integrate with Atlanta United's first team for the matchup in Fort Lauderdale on the weekend. Let's take the tour and give you some of the news here before we catch up with Jason Stevens at the bottom of the hour. It appears that UEFA has approved the idea, and they reluctantly approve is the word. Tom Morgan from The Telegraph. Barcelona Villarreal is set for Miami in December. AC Milan and Como are due in Perth in February. Fan groups are pissed. Alexander Sefrin, the head of UEFA, he ain't all that happy about it. Legally, he says he couldn't stop the move. He's given approval for the Spanish and Italian top tiers to host one-off matches. Sefrin said that the situation was regrettable, said there's currently no legal framework to stop it, and he said, however, the games going ahead will not set a precedent. This is me going, yeah, sure, about that. First European League match in history to be played abroad would be the matchup with Villarreal and Barca. UEFA stressed its, quote, clear opposition to the plans, despite other one-off matches such as the Italian Super Cup and the Spanish Super Cup having been held abroad in recent years. UAE, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all those places get the one-offs. This, different. Sefrin, league matches should be played on home soil. Anything else would disenfranchise loyal match-going fans and potentially introduce distortive elements in competitions. Our consultation confirmed the breadth of these concerns. I would like to thank the 55 national associations for their constructive and responsible engagement on such a sensitive issue. While it is regrettable to have let these two games go ahead, this decision is exceptional and shall not be seen as setting a precedent. Our commitment is clear to protect the integrity of national leagues and ensure that football remains anchored in its home environment, end quote. Remember, the Premier League thought about the idea of playing that +1, the 39th game, back in 2008. FIFA's regulatory framework, quote, is not clear and detailed enough to block them. Condemnation from UEFA comes despite suggestions that the Super Cup could eventually be taken outside of Europe. Telegraph Sport reported back in August how the 4-team tournament format could go to the Middle East or the United States. So keep an eye on that. Also on the board, Brooklyn Eric. We talked about this last week. If you're going to take over a club in England, you have to basically sit there, put your flag in the sand and go, yep, I'm going to do it, or no, I'm not. Because Spurs are a publicly traded company. You have to sit there and state an intention. Brooklyn Eric, who is a former DJ, he was supposedly fronting a consortium of about a dozen folks or entities. They were apparently ready to pay £4.5 billion for Spurs. Spurs said, no, we're not for sale. And now Brooklyn Eric has gone public and said that no, that he is not interested. Reported on doubts the Telegraph did surrounding Eric and his supposed consortium after Spurs unequivocally rejected a, quote, unsolicited and unnecessary informal expression of interest. London Stock Exchange announced that Eric had confirmed that he does not intend to follow up his expression of interest with a firm bid. Posted a message on social media, and so now we're back to Spurs and the Lewis family, now having seen off 3 parties who expressed an interest since the departure of Daniel Levy. Amanda Stavely and Firehawk, an Asian consortium, have also confirmed they will not bid for Spurs after the Lewis family insisted the club are not for sale. Eric's alleged interest in Spurs came after he made a push for Formula E's Maserati MSG so he could get into the Formula E circuit, but then that fell apart. So that is the latest with Spurs, is that it is not going to be a situation where a former DJ and a consortium would be willing to pay £4.5 billion to make sure that the ownership could change. Taking the tour about finding out what else is going on quickly. Ruben Amorim, and this is, I know this will come as a complete and total shock to you, but Ruben Amorim has come out publicly and said, yeah, if we don't improve, I know I'm going to get sacked. It was actually a soundbite. And I know that this will shock you, but Watford are set to sack their current manager. Paolo Pezzolano was named on May 13th, replacing Tom Cleverley, who was sacked 7 days before. Pezzolano has taken charge of Watford for just 10 matches, of which he has won 3. And it now looks that Watford are set to sack him and bring Javi Gracia back. Talks held today with club hierarchy, and they were expected to part ways with him. Gracia, who was in charge for 66 matches between January of 2018 and September 2019, is the number 1 target to replace him. 5 points from their first 6 championship matches, 7 points from the last 3, moved to within 3 points of the playoff spots. Came from behind to beat Oxford last weekend. And, of course, the family, Gino Pozzo and his group, they have always had lofty ambitions. And so since 2018, Pezzolano is set to become the 12th manager that Watford has sacked in 5 years. Pezzolano, Cleverley, Valerian Ismail, Chris Wilder, who lasted 11, same as Rob Edwards, Slaven Bilic, Roy Hodgson, Ranieri, Xisco Munoz, Vladimir Ivic, Nigel Pearson, who both lasted 22 matches, Quique Sanchez Flores, who lasted 12, and Javi Gracia, who lasted 65. That's since 2018. That's the permanent managers, not the interims or anything. That's your list. Pezzolano, if he is sacked, then becomes the one who had the fewest matches. 10. 2 with 11, 1 with 12, Ranieri with 14, 2 with 22, Bilic with 26. Munoz at 36, Valerian Ismail at 40, Cleverly at 59, Javi Gracia at 65, and he could be called back to manage. Sure. It seems like it is completely and totally unserious at Watford. It really does. It just seems like completely and totally unserious. Keeping an eye on the situation with Ange Postecoglou and his meeting with the board with Nottingham Forest. Does he stay employed? We find that out, perhaps. Nico O'Reilly was called up to the England squad after Reece James withdrew because of injury. Deeper dive into the UEFA story by Miguel Delaney over at The Independent. Let's see. Am I missing anything? Missing anything? Not at the moment. It looks like we are good from this newspaper. Checking European football. We mentioned the UEFA story. And we mentioned all that other stuff. Once again, one more newspaper to check. And what we've learned from the first 70 matches in the Premier League this year, that it's going to be confusing and a big strike to finish. And so I think we're caught up on at least the news before we wrap things up at the top of the hour. Let me go back and say hi to everybody who's been in this morning, and we'll see what's going on. Morning, David. Let's see. Morning, Pars. Morning, Abby. Morning, Dr. D. And let's see. So that means that Abby is there, and that means that Nix is coming up fairly quickly. Yeah, there's Nix. And yeah, I wish I was buying us all tickets. Trust me. Morning 4 card. And yes, Marcel Hollitter, love his mime work. Absolutely. Nix wants to know about my thoughts about the rumors of Tata to LAG. Well, I mean, you got to look at it with a couple of different ways. I know that Diario Olay had linked him to LA, to St. Louis, and to a third position. And I know that Herman Garcia Grova last night had said that there was a verbal in place. If it is announced, and I don't care who it is at the moment for LAFC, do you want to announce it now, considering that you're in the heat of a playoff race, thinking that, okay, well, you know, whoever the new guy is, shouldn't you wait until the end of the season to announce that? Because then the individual that you announce turns into something of a coach in waiting, and you're wondering if Steve Cherundolo, with whomever that individual is, if they're going to be focused more on conversations off the field to get ready for 26 and integrate the individual who's coming in, or is that individual just going to be named? You have the press conference, they go away for a couple of months, and they come back at the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, to get ready for 26. You know, if there is interest from Tata Martino after what Tata has gone through, I mean, think about, even if it was, you know, something like, you know, if it's LAG. So let's say it's LAG. After he left Atlanta United, he goes and coaches the Mexican national team, and that was a disaster. That was a poor club that did not do well with Tata. I mean, Mexico waited entirely too late to try and turn things over on their roster, and it showed on the field. Won the first match 3-1, won the Gold Cup over the U.S. 21, they lose the Nations League final and the Gold Cup. So that 19 team was kind of the peak. Then they come through in 21, and they crashed. Lose the Nations League final, lose the Gold Cup, 2-0 loss to the U.S. in World Cup qualifying. First time in the rivalry since 1934. One side had swept 3 matches against the other in a calendar year. 22 World Cup, Tata leads the club. He was the manager in charge. Mexico finished 3rd in the group on goal difference, first exit from the group stage since 1978. fulfilled his contract after the last group match. And then you had a deep run in the World Cup due to his unpopularity, combative persona. Then Tata goes to Miami, stepping down due to personal reasons, 22 November 24. And so that's where we are. So with Mexico, it was 40, 14, and 12. Inter Miami, 35, 16, and 16. And now there's talk that he could be part of LAG. For me, it's like, okay, so who's a part of LAG? And going from here. So did the crew make it official? As we bring in Jarrett Smith here quickly. Jarrett, we were talking about Darlington Nagbe and coaching vacancies and announcing those kinds of things during the season. All those different things coming into this morning. And apparently the crew have announced official that driver Nagbe is retiring at the end of the year. And they've got a full screen up with 6 sentences that Darlington Nagbe's hanging him up. And we talked about what Darlington has meant to all the clubs that he has been a part of. And Darlington Nagbe officially hanging him up at the age of 35 at the end of this season.
One of the best players on this continent in its history.
Mm-hmm.
And that does not just mean MLS. So don't at me.
Mm-hmm.
If your argument is, well, he's one of the best, he might be the best in MLS. Why are you saying one of them? Like, because it's a continent. There's other leagues on this continent. There's things that exist outside your walls.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best players to ever grace this continent. And a very odd human being. And I say that with the utmost affection. Like, at no point have I ever had to put a microphone closer to someone's face to hear a word they said.
Yep.
With an iRig. And then also like putting an earphone in to make sure I could hear any of it. Like, he just kind of whisper talks when he talks to you. He's just very soft spoken, very pleasant, but very soft spoken, very chilled out. Kind of that guy that never took the jump to Europe, and I don't begrudge him any of it. You'd have loved to have had him, I think, in some of these national teams, but he was happy with his lot in life.
Yeah.
And ain't nothing wrong with that. Where he was happy doing what he did. He had 2 or 3 kids at home, and he got to play a game for a living on his terms, lifted some hardware, and now gets to be where he's happy and gets to retire. And I'm sure if he wants to, somebody will hire him for a front office job, or a college will hire him for pretty much whatever he wants. Yeah, man, he gets to be home with his family and kids. And I'm wondering, we don't know what Brad Gazan's plan is. No, he's got 2 games left in this season, but Brad's got a whole mess of kids at home.
Yeah.
And they're pretty settled in Smyrna, I think, at this point, or Alpharetta, one of the two, something or other. But that they've been here since 2017, going on a decade now. Like, if you can retire from your job at 40 years old, finish watching your kids grow up, you've won. Like, you won the lottery. Quit looking. You got to play a game for 20 odd years. Now you get to retire. And in Darlington's case, Darlington's only 35, I think. So he played it professionally for 15 years, give or take. You got to play a game for 15 years, make 6+ figures, maybe 7 figures in some of those years, a year. And now you get to go live, I guess, Metro Columbus area, wherever he is. He gets to go watch his kids grow up and do whatever he wants. He won the lottery. That's it. You got to go play a game for a living, and now you get to be a dad and see your kids, and you don't have to worry about things in the way that other people do. Like, everyone has their own stresses and worries in life, but like, it's a damn good story to have written for yourself. And I wish him nothing but just peace and happiness. And I hope he gets to put his feet up in the morning and drink a glass of orange juice every morning if that's what he wants. Again, one of the best players to ever grace this continent.
Yep. Absolutely true. And also, we briefly talked about, and it has now been made official by Atlanta United, the number of individuals that will not be available on the window. Cooper Sanchez is expected to be back for the weekend for the trip to the Erector set to take on Messi and friends. It is Miggy, Ronald, Saba, Mihai, Miranchuk, Bart Sleesh, and Luke Brennan, who is with the U20s, and they advanced out of group. And so I was trying to mock up what it would look like with twos, but like I said, we don't know short-term call-up numbers and who's left and what it looks like. But you could have like 13 first-team players plus whatever you're adding for the remainder of this week, plus monitoring injuries to go down to Fort Lauderdale on Saturday night.
I mean, put the kids in, the ones that aren't with their national teams. See what they do. Hell with it.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Because at least on the attacking side, see what they can do. See what they give you. You got 2 games left to get through this, and then you got a whole mess of decisions to make.
Correct.
While the rest of the league makes decisions too. As far as this game goes, look, like there is. I understand that you're not playing for anything record-wise. You're not playing for anything playoff-wise or trophies. And I don't want to hear about the damn wooden spoon. Cross that bridge when you get to it. It is what it is. Everything has sucked. You can just say everything has been bad without doom farming all of it every 5 minutes. If you need to be reminded that everything is bad every 5 minutes, or you think that is something that you need to do, I don't know, go touch grass or something. Go watch something else. If it ruins your life that badly, go find something else. There's other things in life, but if nothing else, these next 2 games, pride should matter to these guys. So show me some cojones over the next 2 games, please. Show me some fight. Like, if someone goes and rakes you across the chest like Ryan Porteous did the other night, I don't know, go put 2 hands into their back and put them on the ground and stand over them and ask them if they want to make a fight about it. Call them everything but a child of God and a sewing machine. I don't know. Do something.
Yes.
But do not go quietly into the night.
No.
Like, show me something. Show me you deserve to be a part of this project in 2026. Because right now, show the inverse of that.
Yes. What you said. Turn it into a Missouri element where it's a show me thing. And look, be there for your teammate, stick up for your teammate, focus forward, find out what you've got left, what the crest means to you, and be there for the final 2 matches this weekend in Fort Lauderdale. Like I said, I'm intrigued what it's going to look like in Fort Lauderdale, and also what it's going to look like on decision day, last day of the regular season, as you don't have Aaron Herrera and you don't have Luis Barraza if you're DC United, and what it's going to look like for them as they come to Atlanta to take on Atlanta United for the last day of the regular season in 2025. Yes, go ahead, Jarrett.
And before I
think
hear about it again, because what?
I was going to say you were drifting in and out. You drifted out of a cell, and now you're back.
And before I hear about it and get pissy about it again, because I'm going to. Yeah, DC's a mess too, and they have their own problems. This is not a 1A, 1B of disaster classes, because one of these front offices actually seems to be trying unsuccessfully in 2025 to turn the ship around, whereas DC just kind of... DC is kind of... John, did you ever see any of the Austin Powers movies?
Oh, absolutely. Saw the first 2, yeah.
Do you remember the scene where Mike Myers is on the little cart in the base?
The Y turn in the hallway?
Yes, where the cart's the exact width of the hallway. That's DC.
Yeah, that's true.
Currently, DC United is in that cart that is the exact width of the hallway, attempting to turn it around in what is going to amount to about a 400-point turn.
Yes.
So you don't have to drag your own misery down to other places that don't at least try to throw their money at problems. These are different problems. Just because everything is bad doesn't mean you have to pretend like everything is bad and cheap. No, everything's bad and expensive. These are different problems.
Yes.
And you can address those in the offseason because you have 2 buyouts and a number of players that you can find homes for somewhere, even if you take a bath financially. And frankly, I don't care if you do. I don't give a damn if you walk up there and say, hey, remember that window we made like $50 million? That was great. This one we lost like 20 million. Okay. Did you get better? Yeah, we did. Great. Mission accomplished.
Line on a balance sheet.
Yeah.
It's big business.
Yeah. So, just, I don't know. Like I said, show me something against DC. Show me something against Miami. Get to a fight. I don't know. Someone go like, I don't know, trip Luis Suarez. See what he does.
Yep. That will be that'll be the big part of it. They're missing 7 too. Rodrigo DePaul and Messi are 2 of those 7. And so Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets, and Jordi Alba are not part of the call-ups, but that will be part of your base for the upcoming weekend down in Fort Lauderdale. Thanks for dropping by.
Call up Gabriel Wise or something too. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. That'd be great. Anyway. Keep on crashing and just be safe. Both hands on the road. We'll catch up with you. Tomorrow, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. I'll try to. I'll see you.
Yeah. Bye. There goes Jarrett, and Jarrett is heading into places of work and things like that. Time to catch up with our friend Jason Stevens. Once again, the economics of soccer, and once again we talk about MCOs, and this time it's in the women's game. Once again, you're talking about these multi-club ownership models. And now they're moving over into women's soccer, and you have to keep an eye out for evaluations, and then you have to keep an eye out for equity funds, hanging out with equity funds, and being involved in women's soccer. Here's our conversation of the economics of soccer continues with our friend Jason Stevens over in London, England. And our education continues into the economics of soccer multi-club ownership with our friend Jason Stevens. Okay, so this week, when you and I were talking last week to set up this week, and you had mentioned multi-club ownership in France, it's almost like folks were reading your notes, because in between the time that we last caught up with each other and now, apparently, and this is from our friends at goal.com, Neil Banerjee writes, multi-club ownership under threat in France after a member of parliament presented a cross-party bill that could ban timeshare control of football clubs, potentially affecting Chelsea and Manchester City stakes in Ligue 1. Cockrell warns the law is aimed at ensuring sporting risk and equality of opportunity while punishing non-compliance with heavy fines and competition bans. So the proposal, it was a bill unveiled at banning that kind of ownership of professional clubs in France, supported by nearly 90 MPs from all parties. The law seeks to prevent a single owner from controlling multiple clubs, extending powers to France's financial watchdog, which is the DNCG, who you never want to get mad, and to block these kinds of deals. Non-compliance could lead to fines worth 2% of global. Sorry, I was playing the wrong one. So John's an idiot. And so I'm going to try this. So why was it that this was not going to happen? So there. No. See, this is annoying, because now what happened was, so recordings yesterday, copy. You've reached the number of video uploads on your plan. Seriously? Really? Okay, then how about I just play it? How about that? Let's try this. And our education continues into the economics of soccer multi-club ownership with our friend Jason Stevens. Okay, so this week, when you and I were talking last week to set up this week, and you had mentioned that ain't right. All right, now, John, what is going on here? All right, so I'm officially angry at myself because I thought I was playing the proper one, and now I'm mad because, oh no, hang on. All right, so this is what happens when you're trying to plan something and you're trying to do it on Okay, so I don't need that, and I don't need that. So we go here, and okay, so move to uploads, or all right. So if I move it to uploads, copy to uploads. Oh, here we go. Okay, now it's finally working. But so by the way, it was obviously it was what we recorded yesterday. Yes, I am flummoxed by technology. I'm flummoxed by technology. But yes, it is LAFC. If I said LAG, I misspoke. But and I know that all you guys are talking about ticket prices and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I'm flummoxed by technology because it's like you sit there and you go, John's an idiot first and foremost, and he can't figure out what's going on. But this is literally me trying to figure out how to get things done when it comes to technology in and of itself. So no, 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 no. This is what happens, I guess, when you're kind of where am I, by the way? Where am I? I should be in here somewhere. See, like I said, this is what happens when you're like trying to figure out what's going on. And so, flummoxed by technology. Yes, I am flummoxed by technology, OG. So that's there. So let me get back to where I was and try to upload this silly thing so you can listen to the conversation. Nothing like killing like 6 minutes of time because I don't know what I'm doing. And so, yes, I don't know what I'm doing, apparently. So yeah, this is me doing live TV. Where are any of us anyway? Yeah, I know. I know. It's flummoxed by tech. This is the show where we're flummoxed by technology. But no, the topic that I've been trying to have us discuss, that I've teased 3 times already and twice loaded the wrong video. This is what we're getting into here. Like I said, it's stuff that it's stuff we got to know about and stuff we got to keep our eyes on. But we can't do it if I don't know how to load things in properly. I was trying to upload, and now we're getting there. We go. See you in a
And
bit.
let the education continue in the master's class when it comes to multi-club ownership. Our buddy Jason Stevens hanging out with us here from London. And Jason, there were a couple of things that you wanted to get into this time, and we're going to be chivalrous today. And I guess we're starting with ladies first and female ownership groups and their involvement, and looking at women's sports as well. So what do we need to keep an eye on here? Obviously, Michelle Kang is someone that has gone down this road, but what else do we need to pay attention to?
Yeah. So just a quick recap. Michelle Kang, obviously, you could sort of say she was a bit of a pioneer in this with a multi-club model, which has got 3 clubs in there. That's nothing new, but also she's invested in other sports organisations, like she's pledged 13 million to the US Soccer Federation, etc. There's sort of a private partnership there. Does that give her access to the top American players for her clubs? I mean, that's just probably me making conspiracy there, but we will see. She's also got 25 million invested in the foundation for the US soccer. So, together it's 55 million that she's put into there. And then she's put some, money into US Rugby Sevens, and then some technology and innovation hub companies, etc. So, yeah, she's definitely pioneered the way there. Estimated to be about 1.2 billion. That's the little bit I struggle with, where that's come from, because all the reports I've read, when she sold her companies, etc., they don't add to anything near that. So unless they're sort of valuing the football clubs already in those sort of higher values to give her that sort of figure, then she's done well to invest in there. I mean, she's a very successful woman, etc. So keep an eye on that one, because I'd like to know if there's any hidden investment from other sources on them. But I can't prove anything at the moment, but I do have a couple of suspicions. So I'll leave that there for a second. But when you continue in the theme of women's multi-club ownership models, you have got Alex Ohanian, as we know, he started to invest in Angel City and then put a big investment into Chelsea. But whilst he was investing in Angel City, that's also given him links to Monarch Collective, etc. Now they've just in August, September, they've been in discussions with West Ham, and the interesting link with West Ham is that they sort of value the club there at 55 million, and the potential sell is for Monarch to acquire 49% for about 25 million. So that's quite interesting. Again, just another private equity group, manufacturing valuations, etc. Actually, do you know what? I mean, the thing I find amazing with that one is last year in 2024, my group actually discussed West Ham, investing in the women's team. And back then, they sort of said that, look, if you wanted to acquire 10% of the women's team and then fund the full operations, you're looking at 2 to 5 million. So 49% times, say, 5 times 5. So it's probably about right on what they sort of targeted us at the time. So still, I find it hard to believe, as we talked about last week, when we value a football club, what are we valuing it against? Obviously, fixed revenues, broadcasting, and gate receipts, etc. Even if you use a multiple of 5, you're still only going to get 10 million at max. For West Ham. West Ham is not one of the wealthiest clubs in the WSL, but it's got a great brand. It's got potential. That's the other thing. Then we look at Monarch Collective. It's quite interesting because you've got Monarch Collective and then Crux Football. The Crux Football is spearheaded by Beck Smith, a former New Zealand international. And they've got some key investors, Cindy Holland and Annie Imhoff. Those two are partners, but Annie's an investor in Angel City, and Cindy is also an investor in Monarch Collective. So Cindy is an investor in Monarch Collective and Crux Football.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 different MCO groups there. That's quite interesting. Now, obviously, there's different rules on regulations on MCOs. So in where Monarch Collective are currently got 3 links in the NWSL, now they've actually, got minor investment in Angel City. They've also, a principal backer for Boston. And then, sorry, I forgot the other club top of my head. Go on, can we think of it? San Diego Wave, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. San Diego Wave. So they were part of the Levine Lichman family office there, who are the main backers of the San Diego. So, but interesting, they've got 3 links there. So NWSL rules, you cannot have more than 30% in any one club if you're private equity, and a maximum of 3 clubs, right, for women's MCO. So that means that they have to now go abroad and looking at West Ham. Now, England's rules and European rules. Now, you can't have more than 10% in any 2 English clubs, but in Europe, you can have as many clubs as you like in the European market because they're trying to drive up the investment, trying to drive up the I suppose the brands, the football, women's football in principle. So we could see Crux Football invest. Well, actually, they have turned around and suggested that they want 5 clubs by the end of 2026. There are talks with them, buying clubs in Holland, Sweden. I actually spoke to Ben Levin. He's the CEO of the group, and we were talking about potential markets a few weeks ago. He didn't reveal that they were just about to buy Montpellier, which they bought last week, right? So they're taking 100% control of that group, that club, etc. So detached it from the male club, and now they're operational. So you've got a few groups here, but the interesting bit for me was how does investors own stakes into multi-club models? Mm-hmm. Now, how messy could this get? Because I get it. We've got to drive innovation. We've got to drive investment. We've got to get women's football teams on a platform. But when does this become a problem? And how can the governance then stop that if it does become a problem? If these clubs start, becoming, which they will do, become valued assets down the line, then have we got a problem there? Especially if these people do sit on boards and do have influence, which Cindy does. Right? So she does have influence on the boards of both of them. So that's an interesting one because her name's not really been highlighted before. It's only when I'm doing my research and I'm looking, hold on a minute, you're popping up here and there. But yeah.
I mean, let me ask it this way, and I think that as we discuss women's football, it's one of those sports that is at one of these economic crossroads, I think. And I found it interesting that you said that the NWSL, 3 is the limit and you have your percentage. I get that because in the early days of Major League Soccer, the Hunt family and Anschutz Entertainment, they were the 2 groups that were keeping the early rounds of Major League Soccer alive by owning multiple clubs, and eventually they would hope to sell off and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. We seem to be in those early days of Major League Soccer now in women's soccer, where you have that in the NWSL. I find that 3 is an interesting number just to have that as a limit. I also thought it was interesting that you said that they were into the Boston ownership group, which has been trying to figure out how to get online, and they're finally signing players, and they're trying to find a stadium and pay for a stadium and all these kinds of things. I thought that was interesting that Boston was their 3rd. And then in the European theater, right now, there really doesn't seem to be a whole lot of governance just in general, because they want the investment, and it looks like, and it sounds like from you, that they'll take the investment now and then worry about all of the other stuff later, including multiple MCOs being involved in ownerships of franchises.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's just one to keep an eye on. But, you know, me being involved in women's football myself, I actually welcome the investment because we need to drive it up. My club that I work with, CEO of Leighton Orient, we've received American investment as well from the McCaffrey Group. James McCaffrey used to be an owner of Roma, etc. And, you know, we need to drive women's football up. The other one was obviously Mercury 13. So traditionally they've only had Como in Italy, but recently they've acquired Bristol City. Now, details were a little bit sketchy on that one, but my understanding now is that they've agreed to invest £80 million over the next few years in for that club. And they're a WSL2 club, so they're not even in the top league at the moment. But obviously, what many people do know, but the WSL, which at the moment has 12 teams, is expanding to 14 teams next year. Wow, so there's a few more places up from the WSL2, so that makes it potentially a good option to invest in. But Bristol City have traditionally been a yo-yo club. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. So they do need that little bit of investment in order to kick on, as we say. And then looking at what does that mean? Well, to me, the European football landscape is probably a little bit more interesting than the franchise system that you've got over there. And obviously, the NWSL is a prominent market. It's probably is close between them and the WSL, depending on which metrics you use. The number 1 market in the world, but I think we're going to see a shift in the next couple of years to maybe merging markets from Holland, Germany. Now, there's lots of discussions that Germany are going to be changing their ownership rules to encourage outside investment to drive their women's football clubs up. Now, I still believe that 51 model, they've got 50+1 model, will be influential, but I think they're going to open up like the commercial avenue to a little bit more international investment, etc., and maybe even sell some of their women's teams to create independent franchises that are not really associated with any club, but more to do with regions. That's the other talk that I heard, which I think that could be quite interesting if you create, just completely new brands and get a buy-in there, which, potentially could be the future in that sense.
So in the future, are you anticipating the idea with like a West Ham or something like that, where you have a franchise that is a brand that is operated differently, owned differently? Do you see more of the Premier League sides, and whether it's Ligue 1 in France or any other league that you're thinking of, are you anticipating that you're going to see more splintering of the women's team with the brand that's associated with the men's league that they're in? Do you anticipate that those large ownership groups that have both the men's and the women's club now will splinter off that women's team and just focus on men's football, trying to get independent ownership of a women's franchise down the line?
It makes sense to do that, right? I mean, there's 2 ways in which you can look at it. You can look at it that if a football club, the brand is got teams, whether it's boys, girls, women's, men's, then that brand should be responsible for all of them, right? And you shouldn't necessarily look for partners. But we are in a world where in England you've got PSR, profit sustainability rules, that control the narrative, and most leagues have their own version of restraints. So you can't. You've got to raise revenue to be able to spend it. It's not a case of just allowing rich owners to put their hands in their pockets and spend away. They used to be able to do that a few years ago with the women's and the youth academy, but now you can't. So that, it's sort of handicapped a little bit. So while those rules are in place, then it does make sense to get an external partner to come in, because look at the way that Chelsea have manipulated it. Right? So if you can sell a percentage of your women's team to yourself, then suddenly you've generated more revenue for the parent company, which they can offset for PSR. And in their ways, what they do is, look, you help us. You invest 10% of the women's team. We value that, 20% of the women's team. Just say you've got 40, 50 million for that. That goes into the main club, 50 million. That 50 million is spent however it is, whether it's upgrading facilities or improving the squad. The squad improves performance on the pitch. More money comes into the club, sponsorship, recognition, performance fees, etc. So then will the women's teams benefit indirectly through upgrades of facilities, modern advancements, etc. So it can work like that. They're not selling, well, we're not selling 100%. Some clubs are selling 100% of their women's teams because ultimately in the French market, they just don't have the money. At the moment, we've touched upon this. Like broadcasting revenues are down, commercials down 13% in France. It's going to be a few years before they're in a position to get their women's market up and competing with the rest. And if you sit on your laurels for 3-4 years, especially in the European game, you could find yourself a distant 10th, in terms of where your league sits in the ecosystem. So, France are acting quite fast. Now, again, going back to PSG, we had a conversation with PSG earlier this year, and they were looking at selling 50% off for their women's commercial entity, which was surprising. Obviously, the PSG brand in football is actually quite unique, and it's got itself a foothold globally. They've got more stores than any other club, and the brand, the collaboration with Jordan has done wonders for their commercial revenue. So to sell 50% of that, I was actually really surprised. But they didn't want to sell the football operations; they wanted to keep complete control of that. So there will be some unique ways in which these clubs actually, go about creating collaborations, joint investments, etc. But ultimately, right, a lot of these are all connected somewhere along the line, right? Because if we go back to Mercury 13, the principal investor behind there is our friend from Avenue Sports Investments, which is Mark Lasry, right? Is that right? Mark Lasry, yeah, Avenue Sports Fund. And he was a former Milwaukee Bucks co-owner, and he's got links with Ipswich. So, he invests in Ipswich Town. They've got through Brightpath, which is one of their subsidiaries, and they've got a successful women's team as well. So Mark Lasry potentially has now got Bristol City and Ipswich Town, and they both compete in the same league. So loopholes there.
Oh, well, and then let me ask you this: you mentioned multiple MCOs involved in ownership of clubs. Why would they do this? Is it just something as simple as handshake agreements and following the money and sitting there saying, okay, if we agree with you on this now, then maybe we can do some more business down the line? Is this just kind of like handshakes and winks here about, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll do some other stuff. This might benefit you this time. This one will benefit me next time. What are we looking at here? Why are we seeing multiple MCOs tied into franchises and when it comes to purchases?
Well, the reality is at the moment, and we're talking about driving up the collective value, driving up the collective product, right, to make the league competitive, because there is a massive fear factor that the women's game has already followed the men's game, in the sense of the top 4 teams are already like Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, Man United, and then if you add Tottenham and Liverpool into the mix, you've got a mirror image of potentially the Premier League's Big Six, right? So, but when we look at funding outside of that, you've got London City, which is Michelle Kang, she's coming. Aston Villa's rumoured to be selling off part of theirs. Everton, we've got the Friedkin Group, so they will have no doubt with their links in equity and stuff. There's rumours that they're selling their stake off there. Leicester City will be interesting. Again, always rumours, but there's another rumour there that they're potentially selling the whole women's entity. Liverpool won't, but they will be sustainable. They will invest slowly over the time, but we'll see what happens there because they're in a precarious position as we speak at the moment. And then when you look in the WSL2, you've then got Charlton, who are not the richest clubs in the world. You've got Bristol City, which have just been taken over by Mercury 13. And then you've got a whole host of clubs like Southampton, or the men's clubs in a bit of financial difficulty with Sport Republic. You've got Sunderland, which potentially are well backed, but at the same time, they're not really heavily investing in there. Crystal Palace, right, they've just stabled the ship. Durham's a separate entity. Sheffield United's been a bit of a nightmare. And then we've got Portsmouth and Ipswich. So there is lots of potential partnerships, collaborations in the English game alone, and then you can have that same conversation with clubs in the NWSL. Which clubs are really backed? Which clubs are open? And the other side is, it's who's leading this directive? Is it just coming from in the English league? WSL is now governed by the Women's Professional League, but the Premier League did give the Women's Professional League £20 million, and that's got a seat at the table. So we do, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? We've got the best league in the world to have a seat at the table to help guide, direct, make sensible decisions on especially the commercial side of things, because they've been very successful. But are they having a bit more of an influence to say, look, open your doors up here. If you can't afford to invest in the women's, let's be open to collaborations and financial partnerships, arrangements, etc. Because if you look at the Premier League, the league's in a good position because every club's now got a billionaire behind them, right? So if we can get something like that involved in the women's game, then it's going to drive up the collective value and make it more competitive, which is ultimately what fans want, right?
So going back to the notion of where you have ownership groups that are kind of in bed with each other, but they may not necessarily be in bed with each other. It's like, why are you investing in me? Well, it's because I'm looking at other things outside of your sports portfolio instead of just being locked into this sports idea. Are we seeing that when it comes to the women's based MCOs? Are they looking at three-dimensional investment, or is it more linear right now where it's like sports for sports? Or are they looking at it, yeah, okay, we'll partner up because I see other things in your portfolio that can help me later on? Or are we still sports for sports, or are we seeing three-dimensional work here with the women's MCOs?
I think you've probably hit the nail on the head. I think it's a bit of everything, right? And there definitely will be that narrative of sports for sports. We are seeing, if we look at it, I don't like to separate it, but if you see what the male clubs potentially do in the brand, and they are investing in other sports now. Fenway Sports Group, they're looking at NBA franchise when they launches in the European leagues. PSG are doing that. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. It's going to be a Premier League basketball league. A Super League basketball league, right? So you've got PSG, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, potentially Liverpool. All right, there will be a couple of outliers with Istanbul, and there's another French club at the based in Lyon region, which is also coming to the market, as Villa-Bahrain, completely not how you pronounce it, but based in the Lyon region. So we are seeing the bigger brands get involved in these entities. And then you look at the TGL Golf, right? And those same investors, so Mark Lasry, he's got a stake in TGL Golf, right? David Blitzer, he's got a stake in Monarch Collective, TGL Golf, and a load of other sports entities, youth sports entities, through his Harris and Blitzer combination. Michelle Kang, she's invested in, as we know, the Eagle Holdings, right? Eagle Football Holdings. She's one of the principal major investors there. So she's got a seat at the male table, which is quite ironic, the other way round. and she has links to obviously Botafogo and Molenbeek. So is that favours for favours, right? So she invested in Leon Women to help John Textor because he needed to raise some immediate funds. She's done that. In return, he gave her a 51% stroke majority stake in the women's team. All right, since then he's gone up to mess that up a little bit, and now she's got a bit of more of a controlling seat because of the governance, which has affected, I suppose, John Textor and his seat in France, so he had to resign under that. So how much influence does Michelle Kang have in the whole football group? That's an interesting one. We won't know until we have that conversation with them, but will they ever admit that? But yeah, we've got favours for favours, right? And we've got other sports entities. You could say that it's probably the same group of people that are probably going to own pretty much 80% of the world sports portfolios, the major brands, right? Will we ever get down that road? And again, if you look at what, the one I looked at last year in the Strategic Sports Group, which is basically America's answer to Live Golf, right? And they've taken not a controlling stake, they've taken a significant stake in the commercial operations of the PGA. But the Strategic Sports Group is made up of all these private equity groups, and they've come together. So you've got Liverpool, Chelsea, David Blitzer, Mark Lasry, all of these big players, all now formed a collaboration for the Strategic Sports Group. And is that portfolio going to grow in itself? Because they've got their, this is another conversation, right? When you've got private now having a seat at the governance table of a sport, it's got a seat at the PGA. They're going to say, oh, no, this is only commercial. We know when you've got money has more of an influence, right, on there. So, yeah, I think going back to what you said, I think we're going to see the same 10, 12 names control a large portion of the biggest sports leagues properties globally, I think.
Here we go. That's Jason Stevens, another go round with Jason. And as always, thanks to Jason for dropping by and being a part of our conversations on Tuesdays. Before we get out of here, we got to do a little bit of this. Do we do that or not? Hang on just a second. Okay, hang on just a second, because I want to make sure that it is correctly worded. So hang on. I want to see if this is correct and if it has been, no, that ain't it. Anyway, all right. So much for doing the whole breaking news sounder thing. Okay. Jordi Alba is retiring from football. And so Jordi Alba, he's going to retire after the 2025 MLS season. And so that's another name that is going to be leaving Major League Soccer at the end of this year. So Jordi Alba is going to be out the door. Reported on a bunch of different fronts, and Jordi Alba has not put anything on his 280 character app since April, and right now there is nothing official on the team website, nothing there yet. And I'm checking quickly to see if it might have popped up in another place. But it is Jordi Alba retiring from Messi and Friends after this season. So now what that means is you've got Jordi Alba and you've also got Sergi Busquets. And so Sergi Busquets is leaving at the end of this season, and you have Jordi Alba leaving at the end of this season. You've got Rodrigo de Paul, who is now in. We figured that was going to be for one of the designated player spaces for Inter Miami. So you now have, let's see, I don't want that. So what you're now looking at for the folks in Major League Soccer with the GAM totals that were made available, the roster profiles as of 3 weeks ago, looking at everything that is there. Let me pick all right, so now we go to what's going on in Fort Lauderdale. So Jordi Alba, DP, and his contract is through 27. So you take that contract off the table. Sergi Busquets had a contract through this year. No option at all on either one. So now you've got one of those two that is going to be given to Rodrigo de Paul because he's a TAM player now. And the option years for Rodrigo de Paul are through 29. So you get two of your DP slots back, your U22 initiatives for the moment this season, Avila, Segovia, and Silvetti, and you still had $2 million in GAM left available this season. So two of your DP slots will become available. You got to keep an eye on Luis Suarez and find out what's up with Luis Suarez, considering he's TAM in 25. And so it is going to be an intriguing offseason for Messi and friends because you're losing two of them, and you're wondering what it's going to look like for them come next season. I am intrigued. So we'll see what it looks like with Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi. Does Suarez hang it up? And then that gives you more of another TAM slot, what have you. But Jordi Alba after this season, once again, didn't see that coming. And so Jordi Alba is retiring at the end of this year to give you more money to figure out who else you want to import as you move into your new stadium. And that probably plays into this as well. What other shiny objects do you bring in the tail end of this season or the beginning of next season to move into your new building to move you forward? So these are the questions that the front office is going to have to navigate here. Raul Sanlehi and everybody in the front office, David Beckham and the Moss brothers. That's the biggest question going forward. What's it going to look like for Messi and friends come next year? Jordi Alba retiring, Sergi Busquets retiring. So we'll see what it looks like going forward. Trying to see if there's anything else that is on the board that I might have missed this morning, and I think we are okay. We got to do what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and then I will leave you. We went long this morning. We didn't go quite as long as we should not have gone as long as we did, but because of technology, I screwed it all up. So anyway, here we go. U20 round of 16. That's today. Ukraine, Spain at 3:30. Chile and Mexico. That is at 7 o'clock. Both of those are on FS2. We'll see if the juice boxes have changed in them any between the time that we talked about them yesterday and soccer over there and now. Ukraine, big underdog to Spain, who's a minus 161. Ukraine's basically a plus 400. Chile, a plus 258. Mexico is a plus 108 right now. The U.S. is favored on Thursday at a plus 110 over Italy, who's a plus 231. Universo has Ukraine and Spain simulcast at 3:30. UEFA Women's Champions League, that is at 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. It is Arsenal and Lyon at 3 o'clock. And so you got, let me see if we have juice boxes for that one. Champions League. So let's go Europe. Champions League women. All right. So you have 4 matchups today in the league phase. Juve Benfica, Juve favored at a minus 204. Lyon at a plus 129 at Arsenal, who's a plus 156. Barca, big favorite at a minus 714, hosting Bayern Munich at a plus 1347. And Paris FC, a minus 667, taking on Leuven, who's a plus 1285. Juve and Benfica's at 1245. The other 3 matches are at 3 o'clock. And so all of them are going to be on Paramount Plus. That's your rundown for today. College soccer today before we get out of here. It is a boatload of men's matchups, 1 women's matchup, Cornell and Lafayette. That's at 8 o'clock on the Plus. You have, you've got, A10. You've got ACC, you've got SoCon, you've got American, you've got Northeast Conference, you've got Gardner-Webb and Wofford on the men's side. Keep an eye on that one. It's at 7 o'clock Eastern time on the Plus. You've got Ivy League, you've got MAC, Stetson and South Florida's on ESPN Plus, Denver and Georgetown is on the U, Elon and Duke is on ACC Extra, and you've got other matchups, Belmont and Louisville at 6 o'clock. Injit and Villanova is at 3 on the Plus. St. Bonaventure, Robert Morris at 3 on the Plus. ACC Extra along with Virginia Tech. That one is at 5 o'clock. That's your rundown for today. Back at it again tomorrow. Tomorrow it's Tyler Pilgrim, 9:15. Dylan Butler, the busiest man in the Northeast, at 10 o'clock. We'll catch up with you guys as well. And thanks for hanging out with us for the extra time, considering that I was grappling with technology. I know that you're all shocked. So thanks for dropping. Yeah, and Ricky, we did mention Jordi Alba. And so with Jordi Alba retiring, you now have a second DP slot that is now becoming available. I imagine one of those is going to Rodrigo DePaul to open up a TAM space. Keep an eye on Luis Suarez. What's the next wave for Messi and friends moving into the new building, into Freedom Park, with Messi, maybe Suarez, but no Busquets, no Jordi Alba, who comes into the discussion now. That's going to be the big part that we keep an eye on in the offseason for the front office of Messi and friends. And thanks to all of you guys for being a part of things, as you always are, and watching me grapple with technology. Once again, I know that you're all shocked about that kind of stuff. Back at it again less than 22 hours from now, 9:15 in the morning tomorrow, and we'll break it all down on a Wall Pass Wednesday, and we'll talk about all the things that have happened while we will have gone, and we'll see what other news comes across our bow. Nagby retiring, Alba retiring, interesting stuff now with the roster makeup in Fort Lauderdale, 7 players for Atlanta United. They are on international duty, getting Cooper Sanchez back for the weekend in Fort Lauderdale. You still don't have Luke Brennan. What's it going to look like? We'll try and piece it all together for Atlanta United coming up here in a couple of days' time. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us, as you always do, for SDH AM. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Mucha Plati, I'll play it safe. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.